Now that this part and this assembly is done, I've added a sheet to show the assembly. I want to add some more sheets to show this part. I'm going to go to the end of my sheet set and select Add New Sheet. Then I'm going to go to the View palette and I'm going to browse to my part. I'm going to select my part, open it. The first sheet, I just want to show what's different between the three parts. So I'm going to add the top view of all three parts and then dimension it. Before I do, I'm going to uncheck Import the Design Annotation. Then I'll click on my top view and I'll drag and drop it into the sheet. I'll accept the PU50 configuration and I'll delete the hole callouts. Again, I'll come back to the View palette. Make sure I uncheck this. Here I can see it's showing me I already have the top view, but that's okay. I'm going to add another top view. I'm going to place it over here. And this time I'm going to choose the PU60 configuration and say OK. I'm going to drag and drop the top view into the sheet one more time. So I'll go to the View palette, uncheck Design Annotations. I'm going to refresh this to bring back my PU50. Again, before I drag and drop the top view in, I'm going to uncheck Design Annotations. I'll click and hold and I'll drag and drop this view in. I'll let it load and I'm going to tell it this time I want the PU70 configuration and say OK. I now have all three configurations loaded and I'm just going to take a minute to try and neat them up and nicely, evenly space them out. So my next step is to add a note stating which configuration is which. So I'm going to come up to the annotation ribbon, select Note. And I don't want the leader pointing to any parts. I'm just going to click here just below my PU50 part to place the note. And I'll type PU50. And then I'll click to create it. Then I'll keep this note and I'll place it here. And this will now update it to PU60. Click to place it. And again, I'll come over here. Click one more time. Then I'll update this to PU70. I'll click and I'll escape to stop adding notes. So I'll just take a second and roughly recenter the note over the center of the part so visually it looks good. The only thing that's different with these parts is the overall length. So I'm going to add that dimension. I'm going to select Smart Dimension. I'm going to tell it I want the dimension from here to here. I'm going to come down and place it. I'm going to do that for all three views. And I'll neaten these up in a second. I'm going to say OK. I'll move this view down a little bit to give some separation. Then I'm going to go back and I'm going to fix my extension lines. I'm going to fix my extension lines. I'm going to select them. I'm going to click on this endpoint and I'm going to drag and drop it off. So I have a bit more of a gap. I'll do the same on this side. That looks better, and I'll do that for all of my extension lines. I'm also going to move these two views up just a little bit to increase the separation here. I've neatened these up, and these numbers are an odd number for an inch dimension. They don't appear to be a standard, and that's because they're not. They're a standard metric number. So for this sheet, I want to show dual dimensions. So I'm going to select all the dimensions while holding Control. Then I'm going to come over here to my dimension window and select dual dimension and say OK. Again, I might need to just straighten these up a little bit and reorganize them. So now I can see the metric and the inch dimension and they make more sense. I'm going to rename this sheet. So I'll right click on Sheet, select Rename, and I'll call it PU Configurations. And the last thing I should do is add center marks to all these slots. I'm going to choose center mark. I'm going to say for all holes and for all slots. And I'll set the slots to add the center marks up to the center of each end. And then I'll come out and I'll select my views. I'll say OK. Now in the PU50 and 60 case, this slot was made by doing the circular pattern. So we see these lines here, which are confusing the drawing. So I'm going to right click on them and I'm going to hide them. I'm going to come down, select hide, and I'll hide these circular center marks. Now that'll take away some of my center marks. That's okay. I'll go back and activate center mark again. And this time I'll just select where I want the center mark. So I'll select the center here and I'll change the slot to both ends. Choose this one. And I'll just go and I'll select each one and add the center mark I want. And now I have a reasonable drawing. I'm going to add another sheet. And on this sheet, in the next video, I'll start dimensioning the PU50 part.